Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby, and this time we're looking at the new 8.9 Tier 9 tank destroyer, the turreted Waffentrager auf Panzer IV. Now that's right, you might be looking at the tank with the biggest, well at least the longest gun in the game. This is a 128mm that you would find on the Jagdtiger. So what do you need to know about this tank? This is a glass cannon with an absolutely devastating gun that it can put to serious effect. It has a fully traversable turret which gives it a degree of flexibility when engaging opponents. And it really is a serious glass cannon, a contender for a very, very dangerous title at Tier 9. So let's take a quick look at its stats. So the tank has got 1,600 hit points, which is quite a lot less than the Jagdtiger, which has 1,800. But still, that's enough to weather the storm, so to say, to be able to take the enemy out with your devastating gun. The tank weighs 28 tons, which makes it very vulnerable to ramming, but it has a great engine of 400 brake horsepower, which really allows this thing to shift. Now its speed limit is 38 kilometers an hour, which means that this thing is very capable of relocating really quickly. I would consider this to be the same sort of speed as an IS-3 as an example, and its track traverse speed is a fantastic 40 degrees a second. Now the armor on this tank is pretty much garbage, 80mm at the front, 30 at the side, 20 at the back. It is a Panzer IV hull. And one thing I will highlight for you guys is that the gun shield that you see here does count as damage. Basically, if you hit this, then you do max damage to the enemy tank. Now, the turret is fully traversable at 24 degrees a second, which is excellent. And this tank has a very healthy view range of 410 meters, meaning that it's fully capable of spotting for itself, especially if it uses binoculars. Now this tank can use a gun rammer. It can't use vents as it is open top, so I recommend using an enhanced gun lane drive. However, you might want to use a camouflage net. And I like to use binoculars to maximize that insane view range. Now this tank has got the option of two different guns. It can use a 128mm and it can use a 15cm. Now the 128mm is very similar to the gun that's used on the Jagdtiger. However, I will highlight that it is better, as I'm going to be showing you here. Let's compare the two guns quickly. Better rate of fire with the new tank, same penetration, same alpha damage, same accuracy, but much better aim time of 1.7. That is crazy aim time. You barely have to aim at the target and before you can fire and pull back, which is wonderful. However, if you feel like using a bigger gun, you can go with the 15cm. Fire 4 rounds a minute, which is very healthy, having such a large alpha damage of 750. However, the penetration will be lacking with 235mm with your standard rounds, 334 if you elect to fire heat, but a very healthy HE of 85mm. Now the accuracy on this gun, even when you use the 15cm, isn't that bad, 0.38. However, considering how low the penetration is, you'd really like this to be a little bit better. But the aiming time is fantastic with 2.1 seconds. When we compare this 15cm, for example, the BL-10 here, the 152 that you can mount on the Object 704, we can see that its aim time is much better. It is slightly more accurate with the same alpha damage, with a much better rate of fire, a huge rate of fire increase compared to the Object 704. However, you will be lacking a lot of penetration compared to the Object 704. Now, personally for me, the gun of choice on this Waffentrager auf Panzer IV will be the 128mm. I think the Jagdtiger gun is a fantastic gun for Tier 9, and basically, when mounted on this tank, it's going to be even better. I feel that the alpha damage is really nice, but that rate of fire with the 128mm just means that you can decimate your targets, maybe fire 2 shots before they can effectively re-engage you and pull back. However, if you feel that the alpha damage is there, it's really nice that there are two fantastic guns on this Tier 9 German tank destroyer. One thing I will also highlight, guys, is that you can see that the gun shield changes and the gun size changes depending on the gun that you use. Here we can see the 128mm. Now I'm going to change for the 150mm, and you can see how the gun shield changes. That's pretty cool. I like the look of that. So you're immediately going to be able to tell just by looking at the enemy, if you're engaging one of these, what gun they're using, and you're going to be able to adjust for that, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. You'll be able to go, right, he's using the 150mm. I know that I can shoot him twice or 3 times for every time he can shoot me. Oh god, he's using the 128mm giant gun. Just looks like a ridiculous thing, and I need to basically pull back between shots, or maybe only fire 2 shots and pull back, you know? So that's something to look out for. So anyway, that's quite enough about the stats of this tank. Let's take a look at how it performs in some gameplay. Auf geht's! So here we go, we're playing in the Waffentrager Panzer IV version. This is the Tier 9 German tank destroyer, as you guys have heard in the garage. And look at this ridiculous 128mm gun on the front of the tank. I'm just turning it around, showing that the turret is indeed fully traversable. Just how ridiculous this gun platform looks. So, usually on Erlenberg, which I think is one of the campiest maps, I would try and be aggressive from the north. However, I feel that most of the opportunities will come from the south. So we can see we've got a bunch of AMX 1390s who are advancing along the south. They get us some spots. I've been able to get into position fairly quickly, progressing at between 30 and 40 kilometers an hour. Looking for that first shot, and we can see the excellent aim time on this tank. Look at that aim time. First shot into the track. He's stealth. We can see the excellent reload. I'm still aiming at him, and I fire. And we can see he's burning when he reappears, so we managed to take out his engine from stealth there, and our artillery puts the final nail in his coffin. So we're still advancing along the south. Let's check out the excellent rate of fire of this 128mm, which has got 560 alpha damage. The German line is a little bit confusing because the heavy tanks get lower alpha damage with their guns, even though the caliber of the gun is the same. One thing you should notice here is look how bad this gun depression is. No shot, no shot. Look how far we have to go forwards to expose ourselves to be able to put our first shell at the object 704. Thankfully, it does hit him, doing a healthy amount of alpha damage, 578. He's not so well anymore. Our second shell goes a little high. One thing you'll notice is that, I'm going to highlight in just a second, that the position that the shots actually come from is not the same as where you're actually looking at. Shells are coming from slightly above the reticule at the moment. I'm not sure if that's something that they're going to change. And one thing you'll also notice, the third person is not where the gun is. It can be a little distracting at times. But I found that basically you can aim and then expect the shell to come down from slightly above your tank. So we're firing there, and that was very important. What you saw me do, if I just zoom in here, is we fired just above the lip of the hill, knowing that for some reason it feels like the shells are coming almost from here when you're aiming, and that allows us to loop on down into the object 704, taking his life away. Okay, so now you're going to see something ridiculous about this tank. And that will be, I think I'm going to show you the gun elevation, just how crazy the gun elevation is in this tank. So we're thinking no more action on that south flank. Half of our team has died. Just under half of the enemy team has died. Let's progress to the other flank, and yet, look at that. Look at that ridiculous gun elevation. It's so silly. You could have this tank almost on the side of a building and still be able to shoot the enemy. Could come in useful when you're, for example, progressing down slopes on El Haluf, or if you're on dunes on Sand River, or in fact, if you're just coming down slopes, you should be able to put some pressure out on the enemy, no matter where you are. Look at the fantastic aim time of this gun. It doesn't take it a couple of seconds after you stop moving to become fully accurate again. That's absolutely brilliant. It allows players who like to be fairly aggressive, move, shoot, to perform their game plan. And again, there was another perfect example. It looked like, from where we were firing our reticule, that we would hit the building. However, knowing for some reason the shell seems to come from above the tank, I know it's probably from the fact that you're viewing from here and the gun's slightly higher, so you can loop over buildings a little bit. But it really felt that we were able to loop that shell down onto the WT Panzer IV, doing some significant damage to him. And here's an ST-1. We now have the side of his tank. We take off his tracks. And and there's no second opportunity for us. So now we're against a VK4502B. The Jagdtiger gun is more than capable of decimating it. Straight through the front of the tank for 500 damage. That's quite a low roll. Now we angle our armor, even though our armor is not fantastic, just in case. Still better, even when you don't have much armor on your tank, to still try and use your tracks. I would recommend, if you can side scrape in this tank, considering it is rear turreted, that you probably could do quite a few absorbs with the side of your tank, especially the tracks. However, don't depend on the armor of this tank. If you get shot at, you're generally going to take full damage. So, the game is pretty close now. I decided to be fairly aggressive and advance down the west here towards the enemy's ridgeline. Okay, so not quite sure what we're going to spot up here. Probably some Waffentrager auf Panzer IVs. Okay, we took a big hit from him. We go forwards, put one into him. He realizes that we fired and he comes back for us. Artillery hits us. He takes out my radio man. We take him out. Thankfully, the other artillery misses us. And ouch. Okay, we just lost nearly 1,400 health very, very, very quickly. The artillery put some serious pressure on us, and he was able to fire so rapidly at us. Really, I don't want to be meeting these tanks. I was kind of hoping that that gentleman was using the 150mm when I engaged him, because I knew that I could shoot him twice for his one shot on me. So, 410 meters view range off the top of my head in this tank. That allows us to get forward and get the shot off. However, the enemy were not stupid. He knew what he was doing, and he was pre-aimed for us, shooting us from stealth. He was probably either chilling all the way back here with monster view range, or chilling in the bushes here. And that's all she wrote for our tank. So our team go on to lose this game. I'm just going to skip that out, and let's take a look at some post-game stats quickly. So here's that game in the Waffentrager auf Panzer IV. We got a sniper medal, which meant that we got the heroic resistance, or whatever it's called. Courageous resistance, I think it's called, meaning that we get the bonus experience. We actually got more experience than any of the team for that. It's a great result for us. We did 4,300 damage fairly effectively. We can see that we hit 11 out of 12 targets, doing 4,300 damage for those 11 penetrations, including the fire on one of the enemy, picking up 2 kills. The potential damage that we received was only 1,600, so that means that, well, we didn't bounce anything, that's for sure. And really, with the armor on this tank, you're not going to be bouncing anything anytime soon. We did get 1,155 assistance damage. That was likely to be on that VK4502 when we took his tracks off. And hopefully I showed you everything that you need to know about this tank. So just to recap, this tank gets the same gun as the Jagdtiger, however its rate of fire is better and its aim time is much better. The main weakness of this tank is the fact that it doesn't really have any armor, and also the fact that its gun depression is fairly lacking. Now, I did try this tank out with the 150mm, and I think that that didn't change anything. Gun depression was still bad with the 150mm. I feel that this tank just benefits so much from using the 128 that I will personally be using the 128 on this tank, which is very interesting because I recommend to use the 150mm on the tier 8. I think the fact that this tank gets a Jagdtiger gun, the Jagdtiger gun is such a fantastic gun for tier 9, and the fact that mounting on this gun platform, it's even better than on the Jagdtiger, well, that's just brilliant. I think this tank will be fairly interesting. Of course, it's going to be a rear line tank, and it's also going to be a tank of opportunity. I'm not so sure if this tank is really going to justify having basically no armor. There's nothing really super special about this tank. It's just a pretty damn good all-rounder. It's fairly fast to maneuver, and it does have a fully traversable turret, and it does have a very nasty gun. But it just feels like all the other tanks in the tree have something super special about them. Still, there's absolutely no reason why you can't have huge games in this tank. You're just going to have to play it very differently to the, for example, its tier 9 counterpart, the Jagdtiger. I'll definitely be picking one of these up. I don't think I'll be keeping it because I don't think it'll be very unique. However, that still doesn't mean that this isn't a fantastic tank, and I can't wait to play it on the live server and show just how brutal that Jagdtiger gun, with the increased aim time and increased rate of fire, will be. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. If you've appreciated this, please consider rating it down below, and tell me in the comments what you think about this tank. Do you agree with me that you should use the 128mm over the 150mm? Do you think that this tank is better than the Jagdtiger, worse than the Jagdtiger, or just different? Well, are you really looking forward to this? Will you be picking one up? Tell me what you think. As always guys, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic. Think about checking out some of my other videos in this 8.9 series, and hopefully I'll see you soon.